Hi everyone, welcome back to a new episode from DGMZ Diwan-e-ghalib-meri-zubaani. To all our returning viewers, we are very happy that you could join us again. And to the new viewers, we are glad that you discovered the podcast and decided to tune in for the first time. Today's episode is part of this DGMZ Miniseries that we are currently running. The mini-series is dedicated to the immortal love story of Layla and Majnun. We already have 2 episodes up for you in the series. Today is the 3rd episode. Now, if you were with me in the previous episode, you know that we covered the first 3 chapters from a book we are narrating from as part of this mini-series. Today we are going to get into the 4th chapter. Now, before I begin the narration from the book, I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge and appreciate Suluk Press Publishing House for allowing us to narrate from their book. The book I'm narrating from is titled The Story of Layla and Majnun by Nizami, translated from the Persian and edited by Rudolph Gelpke. English version in collaboration with E. Matin and G. Hill. Final chapter translated from the Persian by Pirzia Inayat Khan and Umeed Safi. The description of this episode will have a link that you can use if you want to own a copy. In addition, the description of the episode will also have links to the podcast episodes at DGMZ, where in his diwan, Ghalib has used Layla-e-Majnun in the Ghazals, and we have covered it as part of the podcast episodes. Okay, so with that, we can begin the narration for today, starting from chapter 4. Start of narration. The story of Layla and Majnun, chapter 4. The separation from his beloved robbed the youth of his home, and if Layla wept secretly, he openly displayed his unhappiness for everyone to see. He appeared now here, now there. He wandered about in the small alleys between the tents and in the bazaar, where the merchants and artisans have their stalls. He walked aimlessly, driven only by his aching heart, without heeding the staring eyes, tears springing from under his eyelashes like wild mountain streams. All the time, he sang melancholy songs such as lovers are wont to sing in their misery. When he passed by, people around him shouted, "Look, the madman, Majnun is coming, Majnun." The reins had slipped from the rider's hand. His innermost being was revealed like the heart of a split fruit. He had not only lost his beloved, but also himself. Everyone saw in his face the reflection of the fire scorching his heart, saw the blood running from his wound. He was suffering because of his beloved, but she remained far away. The longer it lasted, the more Qays became Majnun. Burning like a candle, he did not sleep at night, and while he searched for a remedy to cure soul and body, both were filled with deadly pain. Each day at dusk, the ghost of his vain hopes chased him out into the desert, barefoot and bareheaded. Then strange things began to happen. Majnun had been separated from Layla, yet his longing made him the slave of his imprisoned mistress. A madman he became, but at the same time a poet, the harp of his love and of his pain. At night, when everyone was asleep, he secretly stole to the tent of his beloved. Sometimes 2 or 3 friends who had suffered the torments of love like him accompanied him on his wanderings. But mostly he was alone, reciting his poems. Swift as the north wind, he flew along, kissed Layla's threshold like a shadow, and returned before the new day dawned. How hard it was to return. It seemed to take a year. On his way to her, he ran fast, like water pouring into a trough. On the way back, he crawled, as if he had to make his way through 100 crevices, thick with thorn bushes. If fate had allowed him happiness, he would never have returned home, where he now felt a stranger. His heart had suffered shipwreck, drifting helplessly in a boundless ocean. There seemed no end to the fury of the gale. He hardly listened to what people were saying. He no longer cared. Only when he heard Layla's name did he take notice. When they talked about other things, his ears and lips were sealed. He walked around like a drunkard, weeping bitterly. He lurched, fell, and jumped to his feet again. When Layla's tribe pitched their tents in the mountainous area of Najd, only there did he want to live. Once, when his strength failed him, he gave a message for Layla to the east wind. These were his words. Start of quotes. East wind, be gone early in the morning. Caress her hair and whisper in her ear. One who has sacrificed everything for you lies in the dust on his way to you. He is seeking your breath in the blowing of the wind and tells his grief to the earth. Send him a breath of air as a sign that you are thinking of him. End of quote. Start of quote. Oh, my beloved, had I not given my soul to you, trembling with desire like the wind, it would have been better to lose it. I would not be worth the dust in which I am lying. Look, I am being consumed in the fire of my love, drowned in the tears of my unhappiness. Even the sun, which illumines the world, is singed by the heat of my sighs. Invisible candle of my soul, do not torture the night moth fluttering around you. Your eyes have bewitched mine, and sleep escapes them by day and by night. My longing for you is the consolation of my heart, its wound and its healing salve. If only you could send me the tiniest morsel of your sweet lips. The evil eye has suddenly separated me from you, my moon. My enemy has wrenched the juicy fruit from my hand and thrown me, so desperately thirsty, to the ground. Now he points his fingers at me as I lie dying of my wounds. Yes, I am a victim of the world's evil eye, which has stolen what was my own. Who would not be afraid of it? People try to protect their children with blue amulets. Even the sun, afraid of its darkness, wears a veil of pure sky blue. But I was not protected by amulets. No veil covered my secret. No ruins offered a hiding place for my treasure. That is why the world could rob me of it. The story of Layla and Majnun, chapter 5. Once more, the young day donned his morning coat, woven from shimmering brocade. He adorned the ear of the sky with the precious golden ornament of the sun and the quicksilver of the stars melted in its red flames. Majnu appeared, together with his friends, near the tent of his beloved. So far he had only come by night, wrapped in the cloak of darkness, but now he could bear it no longer. His patience was at an end. He had to see her, Layla, for whom his heart was crying out. The closer he came to his goal, the less certain were his steps. Drunk with longing and confused by feverish hope, his lips trembled like the verses of the poem he was chanting. Suddenly he stopped. In front of him, he saw the tent. And what else? Seldom do dreams become so real. The curtain was withdrawn, and in the entrance of the tent, unveiled in the light of day, clearly visible against the dark interior, Layla was sitting. Layla, his moon. Majnu sighed deeply. Now Layla saw him, and they recognized in the mirror of each other's face their own fear, their own pain and love. Neither stirred, only their eyes met. Their voices caressed each other, softly exchanging plaintive sighs, which they were used to confide to the wind and to the night. Layla was a lute, Majnu a viola. All the radiance of this morning was Layla, yet a candle was burning in front of her, consuming itself with desire. She was the most beautiful garden, and Majnu was a torch of longing. She planted the rose bush, he watered it with his tears. What shall I say about Layla? She was a fairy, not a human being. How shall I describe Majnu? He was a fairy's torch, alight from head to foot. Layla was a jasmine bush in spring, Majnu a meadow in autumn, where no jasmine was growing. Layla could bewitch with one glance from beneath her dark hair. Majnu was her slave and a dervish dancing before her. Layla held in her hand the glass of wine scented with musk. Majnu had not touched the wine, yet he was drunk with its sweet smell. Only this encounter, brief and from afar, was permitted to the lovers. Then Majnu, afraid of guards and spies, ran away, lest the wheel of fate should turn even this fleeting happiness to disaster. He escaped from Layla in order to find her. The story of Layla and Majnun, chapter 6. Majnu's secret sororities did not long remain hidden from Layla's people, who were incensed. By day and by night, they guarded the whole area to block the way against the disturber of the peace. The bridge between the two banks had fallen in. No sound reached the other side. Still Majnu continued to roam in the mountains of Najd, more and more often and forever lengthening spells. He left the dwelling places and pastures of his tribe, wandering aimlessly through the desert, composing ghazals which he sang to himself. He was in rags and looked wilder each day. Overwhelmed by his melancholia, he did not listen to anyone or anything. Nothing that otherwise pleases or disturbs a man found an echo in his heart. His 2 or 3 companions had long since left him. From afar, people pointed at him and said, "There goes Majnu, the madman, the crazy one, who was once called Qays. He heaps shame and dishonor on himself and on his people." There was not one among Majnu's people who did not feel ashamed of him. They had done all they could to avert disaster and help the youth in his trouble. But what good had that done in the end? Can one quench such a conflagration with good advice? And who of the counselors had ever suffered such grief? Still, it could not go on like this. Not only the lover's sanity, but the reputation of his family, of the whole tribe, was at stake. Was not Qays's father the leader of the Amir? He was, and no one was so shaken by the disaster which his son caused and suffered. Yet even he could not change the course of fate. He was an old man, growing rapidly older under the strain. When Majnu's state, far from improving, deteriorated even further, his father, the Sayyid, one day assembled all the counselors and elders in his tent. He asked everyone, and each told what he knew. The story was long and sad, and when the old man had heard it from beginning to end, his head sank lower and his heart grew heavier. What could be done? After he had considered carefully what he had heard, he spoke. "My son has lost his heart to this girl. If he could only win her, he would find himself again. His senses are confused because for him this jewel is the eye of the world. As it is hidden from him, he lives in darkness, a blind man. We must find his pearl. If we brush the dust from the budding rose, it will break into bloom." Then the Sayyid asked all the elders, one after the other, to give their opinion. And behold, they all agreed. Trying to win for the sleepwalker his moon, a delegation was to be sent to Layla's tribe. No sooner said than done, and the old Sayyid led the dignitaries on their way. His sadness gone, he was full of confidence that he could untie the knot in his son's life thread. There was no feud between the two tribes, so when the visitors arrived, they were received by Layla's people, high and humble, with great friendliness, feasted and treated with great deference. Only then did the hosts turn to the Sayyid, asking politely what he desired. "Tell us why you have come," they said. "If you are in need of help, it will be granted. we count it an honor to assist you. These young people on whose behalf I am approaching you will strengthen the ties between us, responded the Sayyid of the Amiri tribe. Then he looked at Layla's father, who was accompanied by the dignitaries of his tribe, and said to him, "May your daughter and my son enhance each other's lives. Behold, I have come to establish a close link between us. I ask for your child's hand on behalf of my own. Both have grown up in the same desert. My son is thirsting to drink from your fountain, and such pure drink will restore him, body and soul. Nor have I any cause to be ashamed of my request. There is, as you know, no man among us whose standing is higher than mine. I have many followers and great riches. I can be a valuable friend or a formidable enemy. Whatever you demand as a dowry shall be yours. I have come as a buyer, and you, if you are wise, will state your price and sell. Take note, there is a chance of great gain for you today. Tomorrow, it may be too late. Do not forget how often prices fall suddenly in the bazaar." Thus spoke the Sayyid. Anxiety for his son sharpened his tongue. But Layla's father was a proud, hard man. After the Amiri had finished, this was his reply: "What you say is your own affair, but you cannot change fate or the course of the world by words. You speak well, and your words are full of sap. But do you really think that enough to lure me into the fire? You have shown me the attractive cover, but what lies hidden underneath, causing my enemies greatly to rejoice, you have not mentioned. Your son is a stately youth, and seen from afar would be welcome anywhere. But don't we all know better than that? Who has not heard more than enough about him and his foolishness? Who is not aware of his madness? He is mad, and a madman is no son-in-law for us. Therefore, you had better pray first that he be cured. Afterwards, you may mention marriage again. But until then, there can be no question of it. Nobody would buy a faulty jewel to be set with flawless ones. And there is something else. You know only too well how keen-eyed and sharp-tongued Arabs are. What would they say? How would they jeer if I did what you suggest? Forget, therefore, what you have said." This was a bitter pill for Majnun's father to swallow. But what could he say? He remained silent, and so did his companions. All they could do was to depart. It was a sad homecoming for them, who had set out so certain of success. The story of Layla and Majnun, Chapter 7. When Majnun's father and his friends had failed to obtain Layla's hand, they tried once more to cure the youth by warnings and good advice. "Why," so they said, "do you worship only this girl Layla? Look around among the girls of your own tribe. You will find so many with lips like hyacinths, sweet-scented, and dressed in Egyptian linen, beauties who are perhaps even more attractive than she who has stolen your heart. You are free to choose from among 100 maidens, each of them lovelier than the new spring. Find a companion who will be a comfort to you instead of torturing your heart. A girl like milk and honey, worthy of you. Let the foreigner go. Thus his friends talked. Their intentions were good, but what did they know about the fire burning in Majnun's soul? Their words nursed the conflagration like thorn bushes. Prickly at first, they soon began to burn and increased the flame which they were meant to smother. No, Majnu was now doubly in despair about the answer of Layla's father and the warnings of his own people. Nothing could sweeten the bitterness which transformed his world into darkest night. Expelled from the land of happiness, he was now a stranger in either world. He beat his head with his fists and rent his garment from top to bottom. Even a corpse has at least a shroud, but then a corpse is at home in his grave. Majnu had no home anywhere. He left his father and his relatives and ran away, paying no attention to roads and directions. He called out, "There is no power and no might except with Allah." And truly, God alone knows how the unhappy youth overcame his desire to kill himself, for everything that binds human beings had fallen away from him. He no longer knew what was good and what was evil, and could not distinguish the one from the other. Through every tent rang out his cry, "Layla, Layla." His hair fell unkempt about his face. His eyes stared, yet he saw nothing of his fellow men nor heard their reproaches. The crowd who watched and followed him was growing all the time. They were greatly upset by his behavior. But when he began to talk in verse and sing about his love, when he addressed the star of his longing, when the fire in his heart reached the tip of his tongue, and sadness resounded from his lips, the mood of his listeners changed. They stood surprised and deeply moved, and soon there was no one who did not shed tears about the minstrel and his fate. Majnu, however, noticed neither reproach nor sympathy. He was not even aware of the people around him. It was as if his name had been torn out of the book of life, and he had fallen into nothingness, as if he were no longer one of the living, and not yet one of the dead. A stone had dropped on his heart. He was like a burnt-out candle, or a maimed bird that has lost its mate and flutters helplessly in the dust. In the end, strength left his body. He fell to his knees as if at prayer and cried until consciousness returned, and he felt pain flowing over his lips like a dark stream. Start of quotes. "Oh, who can cure my sickness? An outcast I have become. Family and home, where are they? No path leads back to them, and none to my beloved. Broken are my name, my reputation, like glass smashed on a rock. Broken is the drum which once spread the good news, and my ears now hear only the drumbeat of separation. Huntress, beautiful one, whose victim I am, limping, a willing target for your arrows. I follow obediently my beloved, who owns my soul. If she says get drunk, that is what I shall do. If she orders me to be mad, that is what I shall be. To tame a madman like me, fate has no chains. Crushed as I am, what hope is there that I could ever be revived? Heaven, grant that a rock fall may crush and bury me, or that lightning may strike me, burning down the house with all its furnishings. Is there no one who will throw me into the crocodile jaws of death? No one who will free me from myself and the world from my shame? Misbegotten creature, madman, demon of my family. Yes, I am a thorn in the flesh of my people, and even my name brings shame upon my friends. Anyone may shed my blood. I am outlawed, and who kills me is not guilty of murder. Goodbye to you, companions of past feastings. I salute you. Farewell. Look, the wine is spilled. The glass has slipped from my hands and broken. Of my happiness, only the shards are left, with sharp edges which cause deep anguish. But when you come, do not be afraid of cutting your feet. The flood of my tears has swept away the shards, far, far away. Did Majnun notice the people who surrounded him, silently staring and listening? So it seemed, for he turned and spoke to them. What do you know, who have no notion of my grief? Away with you, make room. Do not look for me. I am not where you believe me to be. I am lost, even to myself. One does not address people like me. You torture and oppress me. How much longer? Leave me alone with my unhappiness. No need to chase me from your tents. I shall go freely. I am going. But Majnun no longer had the strength to flee. He fell on his knees in the dust. Again and again, in deep desperation, his heart went out to Layla, who was so far away, and implored her to help him. I have fallen. What shall I do? O my beloved, come and take my hand. I can endure it no longer. I am yours, more used to you alive than dead. Be generous and send a greeting. Send a message to revive me. You are imprisoned, I know, but why imprison you? I am the madman. I should be fettered. Bind me to you, wind against your tresses round my neck. They are torn, yet I remain your slave. Do something. Help me. This is a cruel game. End it. Lift your foot, that I may kiss it. Things cannot remain as they are. It is not right to sit in the corner, arms folded, doing nothing. Take pity on me. A rested man has no feeling for one who is exhausted. A rich man, his hunger stilled, who invites a beggar to his table, knows nothing about starvation. Yet he may eat a few morsels to honor his guest. Aren't we both human beings? You as well as I? Even if you are a blossoming beech tree, while I am a dry thorn bush. Peace of my soul, where are you? Why do you rob me of my life? Other than my love, what is the sin of my heart? This heart which asks for your forgiveness. Of 1,000 nights, give me only one. Look, everything else I have gambled away and lost. Do not say no. If you are angry with me, quench the fire of your wrath with the water of my tears. I am a star, my new moon, driven to distraction by my longing to see you. My only companion is my shadow, and even with him I do not dare to talk, fearing lest he might become a rival. If only your shadow had stayed with me, but even that you have taken away, and my heart and soul with it. What did I receive in return? What is left to me? Hope? A thirsty child may well in a dream see a hand offering a golden cup, but when he wakes, what remains? All that he can do is suck his fingers to quench his thirst. What does it matter? Nothing can ever extinguish the love for you in my heart. It is a riddle without a solution, a code which none can decipher. It entered my body with my mother's milk, to leave it only together with my soul. Of that I am sure. Here Majnu fell silent. His voice failed, and unconscious he fell forward, his face in the dust. All who had listened to him and saw him lying there felt sad. Gently they lifted the unhappy youth and carried him home to his father's tent. Love, if not true, is but a plaything of the senses, fading like youth. Time perishes, not true love. All may be imagination and delusion, but not love. The charcoal, brazier on which it burns, is eternity itself, without beginning or end. Majnu won fame as a lover, for he carried love's burden as long as he lived. Love was the flower's scent and the breath of the wind. Even now, when the rose has faded, a drop of the rose water endures and will last forever, giving pleasure to you, reader, and to Nizami. End of narration. So that was chapter 4 to chapter 7 for today's episode. Hopefully you enjoyed the narration. A good book and some tea. I mean, this is perfect, right? At least at my end. Hopefully it is this perfect or even more at yours. So while I was reading through the chapters, there were a few things which left a mark, right? Though the entire book is so well written, but there are a few things which really catch your attention. So in the 4th chapter, Nizami writes, Layla wept secretly, and he openly displayed his unhappiness for everyone to see. And I did think that as we are trying to understand this story, right, many a times, including in one of the ghazals from diwan-e-ghalib, we came across this notion, if you may, कि लैला के प्यार में वो ताब नहीं था जो मजनू के प्यार में था, राइट? ये हम लोगों ने गालिब की गज़ल में भी एक बार सुना है, और है ना, कि उसके कदम कौन रोक रहा था लैला के मजनू के पास आने से. बट यहाँ पे जब ये पढ़ते हैं कि लैला वेप्ट सीक्रेटली एंड मजनू ओपनली, तो ऐसा लगता है कि ये जो पॉइंट है ये काफ़ी ऑब्सक्योर्ड और छुपा रह गया कई जगह. बट द फैक्ट ऑफ द मैटर, इट सीम्स फ्रॉम निज़ामी स्टोरी, इज़ दैट लैंग्वेज ऑफ लव थोड़ी डिफरेंट थी दोनों की, बट दोनों तरफ लैंग्वेज ऑफ लव थी. लैला की लैंग्वेज ऑफ लव जो थी वो it was more embedded in silence and anonymity, and justifiably so, right? She being a lady and so much at stake in terms of honor, right? Majnu, on the other hand, uski jo language of love in terms of proclaiming his love, वो बहुत vocal थी and public थी. Layla was very silent and private. Majnu was very vocal and public. But both of them spoke to each other in languages so different and yet understood each other. Both communicated in different languages. ऐसा लगता है जो बातें लैला अपनी खामोशी से कहती थी वो मजनू अपनी शायरी में कहता था. सो बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग लगता है जब ये निज़ामी ने यहाँ पे बोला कि लैला wept secretly and he openly displayed his unhappiness. And then 4th chapter में एक जगह और उन्होंने बोला, a madman he became, but at the same time a poet, the harp of his love and pain. And यहाँ पर अगर आपको याद हो introduction episode में when we were going through the prefaces, the preface by Rudolph Gelpke, वहाँ पे बहुत प्यारी तरह उस preface में Rudolph Gelpke बोलते हैं कि निज़ामी मजनू को 3 distinct forms में perceive करता है. उसके 3 बहुत distinct रूप हैं जिसमें निज़ामी मजनू को पोर्ट्रे करता है या परसीव करता है. पहला हिज लव, मजनू एज अ लवर. दूसरा हिज इंसैनिटी, मजनू एज अ मैड मैन. एंड तीसरा उसकी शायरी, मजनू एज अ पोएट. एंड चैप्टर 4 में हम लोग देखते हैं मेकिंग ऑफ मजनू एज अ पोएट. चैप्टर 4 में वो जब अपना दुख रो रहा है तो ये दुख जो है ये शायरी बन के उसके मुंह से निकलना चालू हो जाता है. एंड दैट इज़ अ वेरी बिग माइलस्टोन. एंड देन ऑल्सो 4th चैप्टर में वेयर निज़ामी राइट्स दैट मजनू सेज, यस आई एम द विक्टिम ऑफ द वर्ल्ड्स ईवल आई. सो ऐसा लगता है कि मजनू को किस्मत से इतना ज़्यादा गिला नहीं था, खुदा से कोई ज़्यादा गिला नहीं था, गिला उसको दुनिया से था. क्योंकि अकॉर्डिंग टू हिम द वर्ल्ड पुल्ड अ फास्ट वन ऑन हिम. समथिंग दैट वॉज मेंट फॉर हिम, समथिंग दैट वॉज डेस्टिन्ड फॉर हिम, समथिंग दैट वॉज हिज. किस्मत, खुदा, कायनात, सब ने लैला उसके लिए बना के भेजी थी. लैला उसके लिए बना के भेजी थी. एंड इट इज़ जस्ट द वर्ल्ड एंड द ईवल आई ऑफ द वर्ल्ड जो कि उसको लैला से जुदा कर देती है. 5th चैप्टर में आई थिंक 5th चैप्टर का जो बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग पार्ट है वो है निज़ामी किस तरह से वो डायनेमिक यिन एंड यांग वाला जो डायनेमिक होता है लवर्स के बीच में, सोलमेट्स के बीच में, बहुत प्यारी तरह अलग अलग इलस्ट्रेशंस के साथ, अलग अलग एग्जाम्पल्स के साथ बहुत बखूबी डिस्क्राइब किया है 5th चैप्टर में. वेयर ही सेज he is detailing how both Layla and Majnu are 2 halves of the same whole, right? And so opposite and yet fit perfectly together. And the fact that they are so meshed together, he has captured, like I said, in various illustrations. Lute and voila. Layla ko lute, Majnu ko voila. Rose bush watered by tears. Fairy and fairy's torch. Jasmine bush and a meadow. Bewitcher and the slave. Bewitcher and the dervish. Wine and the drinker. Lot of examples. And of course, in sare examples mein, he is describing how perfect these two were together. And by extension, how devastating it was that they were not together. दोनों की इनकम्प्लीट जो इनकम्प्लीटनेस, इफ़ यू मे, आई नो दैट्स नॉट अ वर्ड, बट वो जो थी उनकी जो उनके अंदर जो कमी रह गई, एक दूसरे के बिना, हाउ एसेंशियल इट वॉज फॉर सर्वाइवल, एंड कैसे बोथ ऑफ देम वर काइंड ऑफ फोर्स्ड टू लिव देयर लाइव्स सेपरेट फ्रॉम ईच अदर. अगेन, though they were destined to be together, they were two halves of the same whole, and still had to live as two separate halves. And sixth chapter, to bhai, it's about the fathers. Oh my god, just ridiculous. So and I say ridiculous because it is so typical, right? It is so typical. So लैला का बाप और मजनू का बाप, कहना पड़ेगा कि both fathers, though noble in their intentions to protect their children from grief and misery and humiliation, right? दोनों fathers के दिल में एक बहुत strong जज्बात था कि अपने बच्चों को दुख से, तकलीफ से, बदनामी से बचा लें. लैला का भी बाप उसको इन्हीं सब चीज़ों से बचाने की कोशिश कर रहा था, मजनू का भी बाप उसको इन्हीं सब चीज़ों से बचाने की कोशिश कर रहा था. बट inadvertently both fathers land up blocking, or I would say killing, any chance of happiness and joy for their children, for as long as their children lived. So बहुत वो बोलते हैं ना, मजनू का बाप के लिए निज़ामी बोलते हैं, एंजाइटी फॉर हिज सन शार्पन्ड हिज टंग. तो बेचारा गया तो बहुत नोबल इंटेंशन से था लड़की का हाथ मांगने, पर व्हेन यू रीड हिज डायलॉग, शुरू में तो ठीक जाता है, बट टुवर्ड्स द एंड एक शार्पनेस, एक थोड़ा सा आर्म ट्विस्टिंग करना चाहता है बिकॉज ऑफ डेस्परेशन. बट ऑफ कोर्स ऑन द सर्फेस इट माइट हैव लुक्ड लाइक एरोगेंस एंड बॉसीनेस और वट एवर. एंड कैसे इंस्टेड ऑफ calming the waters and getting Layla's father to become positive about the proposal, he just riles up Layla's father. He just angers Layla's father and his ego, though he didn't plan to. But वो जो एक बहुत गहरा डर था छुपा हुआ उसके अंदर कि अगर इसने ना बोल दिया तो क्या, तो उसको लगा कि थोड़ा सा आर्म ट्विस्टिंग करे. And जैसे Layla's father says, right, a madman is no son-in-law for us. इसमें तो बहुत ही आयरनी है कि आप लैला का बाप मजनू को पागल कह रहा है, नोइंग फुली वेल कि मजनू पागल उसकी बेटी के मारे है. बट वो आयरनी है. एंड अगेन लाइक आई सेड, इंटेंशंस नोबल ही रही होंगी कि अब ये फटे हाल इंसान के साथ अपनी बेटी की शादी कैसे कर दें, बट नॉट नोइंग दैट ये फटे हाल इंसान ऐसा है क्योंकि उसके पास आपकी बेटी नहीं है. हो जाएगी तो ये भी एक अच्छे ख़ानदान से, इनफैक्ट प्रॉब्ली आपसे भी अच्छे ख़ानदान से है. he can come back. And then the last one, chapter 7, of course this entire chapter is about the heart-wrenching cry from Majnu, right? Almost one of the last ones we will hear from him, where he is still wanting and waiting for a glimmer of hope. And अभी भी बुला रहा है लैला को, अभी भी उसको वास्ता दे रहा है कि आ जाओ और मुझे बचा लो, क्योंकि मजनू को प्रॉबली लगने लगा था जिस तरह से उसके आसपास थिंग्स जस्ट स्टार्टेड कमिंग क्रैशिंग डाउन, राइट. लैला के बाप ने मना कर दिया. मजनू को सारी उम्मीदें, कोई उम्मीद बर नज़र नहीं आती, कोई सूरत नज़र नहीं आती, राइट. उसकी सारी उम्मीदें ख़त्म हो रही थी, एंड उसके दौरान भी लाइक आई सेड, प्रॉब्ली वन ऑफ द लॉन्गेस्ट एंड द स्ट्रॉन्गेस्ट क्राइज he makes out to Layla, hoping that she will respond, hoping she will do something. And chapter 7 में एक बहुत प्यारी बात लगी मुझे कि निज़ामी kind of pays a tribute to Majnu's resilience when he says this or when he writes this. And truly, God alone knows how the unhappy youth overcame his desire to kill himself. For everything that binds human beings had fallen away from him. So, निज़ामी एहसास दिलाते हैं रीडर्स को कि ये एक ऐसा इंसान था जिसके पास जीने के लिए कोई रीज़न नहीं था, कोई रीज़न नहीं था, ना छोटा ना बड़ा. He was devoid of any reason to live, and still he lived. Still he lived through this, right till the end. Majnu only died after Layla died. उसने गाड़ी खींची, एंड तक खींची, ना उम्मीदी के साथ खींची, with no hope, no cure. And chapter 7 में one of the most beautiful parts is जहाँ निज़ामी gets into defining love. बहुत खूबसूरती से describe किया है. This is what he writes. Time perishes, not true love. All may be imagination and delusion, but not love. The charcoal brazier on which it burns is eternity itself, without beginning or end. I think, like I have said in some of the podcast episodes also, there are a lot of definitions of love out there. Each one better than the other. And this one can definitely make to the list of some of the top definitions. I have seen very well put, very well articulated. So that is what we had for today's episode. Hopefully you enjoyed the narration and the brief impression we were able to do after narrating from the book. If you enjoyed the content, let us know. Engage with us, like the content, give us your feedback, give us your comments. As I said in the beginning of the episode, if you want to own a copy, I mean, this book is, as we are going through it, we are realizing the book is full of quotes. I mean, so many things are just quotable. Beautifully written book. No wonder it's a masterpiece. So yeah, the link of the book is available in the description episode. The links of the Ghazal episodes where Ghalib uses Layla-e-Majnun in various contexts are also available in the description episode. We will pick up from chapter 8 in the next episode. Let me send a lot of love and light to all you dear viewers. Thanks for watching.